Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on looking for our stabilizing syllability, but obviously we're making some great progress, as we always do. So continuing on with our derivation, kind of just a fun little thing. I got a comment on one of my short videos, because again, we're solving these things in complete generality. We're showing this consistency from the language, the words representing the physical things. We're pretty much done describing the physical things almost. But there is, these physical proportions are true regardless of context. And so we're solving these things in complete generality, which is how language is already defined. But again, this logical differentiation and poignancy seems just to go over people's heads. But regardless, I got a comment on my one of my shorts, just the inverse proportionality of temperature and stability. Right, the faster something's vibrating, the more temperature it has, the less stable it is. And so someone comments, this is the clearest explanation of climate change I've ever heard, or something to that effect. And again, positive comments never make me feel anything. Again, I'm just demonstrating for you how language forms and how it functions. And so if that benefits you, great, fantastic. But the negative comments don't even really get me upset. It's just when I can't respond, again, in a professional capacity. You don't go into your boss's office and shit everywhere and then expect to have a job. And that's what a lot of these comments are. And it's just like, this behavior has no role in scientific academia. And it's just shit behavior to begin with. I mean, like, be adults. This is just all. The point being is, putting that physical proportionality of temperature and stability into climate change, again, is such a limiting case. Again, we are solving these things in complete physical to logical completion. But it just, you see the same thing with like the 9 times x over 1 over third, right? It doesn't equal third, it equals 3. So we've been well past against these direct mathematical results. We completed ordinality, and I will expand upon that or develop that. Again, it's just a direct sequence of progression, right, to this stabilizing syllability of sensorality. But difference produces distance, right? What is the difference between 2 points? It's literally a line. And so that's our complete geometric basis. We derived that 2 episodes ago. What is distance to direction? Right? If I go left or right or up or down or forward or backward. Just posing the question to get your intuition. What is directionality? And I said I like the word direction as opposed to dimension. Because again, phonetically, right, dimension. Right? A mention is a citation. If you're referencing something, you're mentioning something. But physically, again, dimension never struck me as anything. You need n+1 elements to completely map or cover n elements. And so we live in 3 dimension, again, and is really reflective of their stabilized component of 2, and that's literally mass, is this stability of charge that produces polarity, and that stabilizes past anything a physical object can interact with. So it's stable. That's where you get your electron, that's where you get your proton. And so dimension really never meant anything to me. Like going through school as a student, doing research as I do it now, never really meant anything to me. But direction, right, directions come in pairs, right? That's that completeness, that's that natural opposition we talked about. And so kind of the balance between inversion and opposition, that's how linguistically we're developing this definition for sensorality. Because we renormalize, we show this is that, and then there's a section of that language that will complete, and that's sensorality with a C. I'm still conjecturing that, but it's gonna be that for sure. So we're just trying to show that direct iteration. But what is direction to detection, right? A measurement is a detection. Detection, inspection. Do I want to say anything to the actual content of that question? What is direction to detection? Again, momentum, a particle moving in one direction is going to be detected more easily because the momentum is in that direction. You have your independence. Again, just pose, if I pose a question and don't respond to it, it's just it's showing you some sort of logical consistency between the 2 words and the concepts. But sensorality inspects. Sensorality is spectionality. Direction points. Somebody comes up to you and says, hey, can you point me in the right direction? Pause. What are they saying? Point me, right? The difference between 2 points is a line. And so it's all of this geometric alignment. But you can only, again, move, there's one tension path. And so it's like you can't, in the same way, if I'm going to move my body right now, I have to like have a force vector pointing to the center of the earth. Right? I can't like brace against the air particles that are around me. And so there's one tension path. And it's all like directed, like that's like the directional stability of 2. Yeah. And so, but point me in the right direction, direction points. So I've introduced this again, again, there's certain logical theorems, like all of this derivation is under from rhythm to algorithm. And so I've introduced another logical statement, spelling a word constructs a variable and the context defines it. And so that's kind of like the logical opposite if somebody says you took it out of context. It doesn't matter what it is, right? It is what it is the solution. It's like this contracting, generalized form of all solutions, all resolutions. But if somebody says you took it out of context, it doesn't matter what the it is, spelling a word defines a variable and or spelling a word constructs a variable and context defines it. So it's hard to sometimes differentiate when you do first principle science in the 21st century and you're using all the same words that everybody else uses. Everyone's arrogant as shit and way fucking dumber than you. And it's like you actually derive the things that people have kind of like cumbersome like stumbled upon sometimes. And so that's one of them. You took it out of context as like in the same way you can't square a circle and then it's like trying to put a square peg through a round hole. It's like logical reciprocation. We went through that, if I happen to have said that wrong right there. But the point being is it's like reciprocal logic in that same type of sense. So now, right, 2, we have another unique word that's in this fundamental stability like both, but twin, right? Twin is 2. And I think there's a large scale kind of open math question about, twin prime numbers. But again, clearly we've produced way more poignant results, but we're deriving the structure of what a problem, like where problems could arise from. And so, right, what is twin, right? Again, it's another emergence of this fundamental stability of 2, but sensorality is twinning, right? Twinning is mutual exclusivity. It's another one of these logical structures that is there because of this fundamental physical stability of 2, but nothing is actually physically mutually exclusive. Or you can't, like literally you can't, nobody, you can't, I'm done talking about the fundamental physical stability part because we went through that. There's nothing else for me to say. But mutual exclusivity logically doesn't exist because everything interacts, right? We have this stability of 2, but we're in open systems where we all have temperature, we're all thermodynamic, and we're all radiating. And so there's no physical mutual exclusivity besides charge. But that's a complete set. That's not what anyone's talking about when they say mutually exclusive. So the twin prime conjecture arises because of this fundamental physical stability of 2, and the answer to that question is yes. Again, all of these questions around prime numbers are just different facets of the fundamental stability of 2 physically and irreducibility. And again, that irreducibility exists because the things are so tightly bounded that there's no physical systems to break that bond. But I don't even know if bond makes sense, because bond is the sharing of electrons. This is the fundamental, again, you can't conceptualize charge without mass, and I've walked you through as much as I can on there. There's nothing else to say. But here's a fun fact. I don't know what slang is. All right? It's a well-defined thing. It's like some sort of, you're modifying grammar, which is another word that is now apparent and relevant. But like ordinality becomes grammar. And so, but I don't know what slang is, right? People might say a dialect, they say this in New York, or this in Boston, or this in India, or this in this part of India, or whatever. But I don't know what it is, right? Like, what is slang? It's like not formal language, it's slanguage. Sensorality is slanguage, but like it's a clearly well-defined thing that identifies something, but it's another one of these calling spicy food spicy, and it's not spicy, but I know what you mean, but it's like, what the fuck is slang? Don't really know. And so this is another good thing of like these gradations of levels of mathematics. You have these immediate questions where it's like, how can you do all this stuff with language and not know what slang is, dude? It's obviously this, and then somebody says something shit that it's obviously not. But you can't, like, prove it wrong. And so you don't know, like, how to even, like, respond. But yeah, look at all of the things we've proven up until this point. In pretty much the entirety of physics, and it's like, what is slang? What is grammar? Some sort of preservation of phonetics to, like, the letters and plural and singular and noun verb agreement. And so, like, so we're still not even into, like, the formalized, if you go into school and learn another language, you're just doing trial and error. You're not actually learning any linguistics. Like, the fundamental theorem of linguistics, words are irreducible, has never been articulated meaningfully. And everybody uses words, like, every fucking day. So again, like, then we're back to even questions like, what is the boundary of a word? Like, clearly you can hear me forming sentences. If anyone that's speaking English is listening, you can write down the different words. But like phonetically, how do we separate? There's no physical, like, there's so many, like, basic questions of language you could ask me, and I genuinely don't know. And look at all the things we've proven up until this point. But sensorality is slanguageality, right? A gauge is a sensor. What is the point, right? Somebody says something, you say, what is the point? Brad, what's the point of from rhythm to algorithm? To demonstrate how language works. What's the point of language litigation and integration? To point out all the people that owe me a lot of money. And that's actually the truth. It's because it's like, this stuff has been happening my whole life. Like, from the beginning of my YouTube channel, that was not some big start for me or anything. It's just like, these proofs and derivations take long times, and it's just, you see all the property getting stolen from you, people being legitimately too stupid to know what's going on. So the amount of crime I've been the victim of is just unbelievable, man. Because it's like, you can honestly and legitimately derive $12 million worth of mathematics in like 2 seconds. And then you're like, okay, like, can I start ever doing real work? And the answer's like, no. That's a big no-no. But like, what is the dichotomy of no, like, I know something, I'm understanding of something, and no, like, that's not correct. There's all of these questions that just immediately arise, and I'm just trying to focus again. I just have one letter after another to get to this stabilizing thing, because this open range of logic is so tremendous. And so, all right, what's the point? To stay on the right path to get to sensorality. But the actual point being is when people say, what is the point? Logic condenses, it contracts, right? It gets to a finalizing thing, it has a conclusion, it's finite. Points are finite. The past was. What is as to is, right? Is, was. What kind of logic can we put to these different forms of past tense, future tense, present tense, which isn't the right differentiation? Oh boy, truly, like, anything you'd say, like, again, if you went to school and you studied linguistics, you didn't study, linguistics has not been articulated into any sort of real logical structure anywhere. As to is what is to as. Another one of these foundational, extremely poignant logical steps, but I don't know if you guys can follow that stuff. Property is real estate. Estate is real property. I bet you can follow that one. Sensorality is estatality. Connection completes. Completing connects. What is contraction to completion, right? Special is really pronounced special. Right? So how does this, like, we're deriving down, we're contracting from 3 to 2. That's even more into, like, elementality, right? It is what it is 5 syllables. Sensorality is 5 syllables. So we're deriving down from 5 to 3 numerically. And then so this fundamental stability of 2, that comes directly from physical stability. So that's elementality. That's way more general than numbers. It's how thing, not that thing. Those two things form a dynamic that's stabilized, and then not that thing again. Like, that's the environment you live in. So 3 things. One of them being not stabilized, and the other 2 being stabilized. And so to show this again, all of these ideas coming together at once, we have to show this contraction kind of physically. Again, it's obviously you have to represent it with language. And so it's going to be from 5 to 3, but syllables. And then again, that 4th area, like, again, speciality, there was specialty, there was something in there. I could literally look it up, and I'm literally still not going to. But contraction is relevant to completion in the same way you pronounce special, you really pronounce it special. Disdain, despair. Sensorality is disdainful. What is coordination? All right, so now we've completed ordinality. Order, ordinal, ordinality. So now we finally arrived at this big cumbersome word. What is coordination? Now, first of all, who can predict the structure of that language? Oh, look at us. We have a new math subject. We can. And by we, I mean me. Right? You have to invert the W to get me. Haha. Nice. Wow, that was a stupid fucking joke. Anyway, right? I even put a hyphen in there. Like coordination with no hyphen, that's illegal. Ban that immediately. But right? Cooperative. Coordination. That is definitely a stability of two. Right? And so, but it's directly, obviously, a logical linguistic form of ordinal. Right? Coordination. Logically meaning, we work together. Coordination is synergetic. And so if you coordinate something, you're getting the timing, you're getting something set up, you're getting, right? Algorithms are coordinated. But the whole structure of this thing, coordination, is like all of the stuff we just talked about and proved. And so, but if you're a coordinator, what are you doing? You're just getting things in the right order. That's what you're doing. You're organizing. A coordinator organizes. And so sensorality ordinates. But athleticism coordinates, right? Coordination is athletic. I told you we were going to define athleticism like 7 years ago. We have to build this whole structure up again to make little progress. But clearly is that stability of two, coordinate and cooperate. Right? What is ordination to operation? But again, what we derive there is the actual structure of those word things. Because people drop the hyphen in there, and it's clearly supposed to be a hyphen in there. But now, obviously, to mathematics proper, if you want to say that, because you're a faggot, what is a coordinate system, right? Polar, Cartesian, cylindrical, spherical. But wait a second, we've just proven this fundamental stability of two is polarity. So polar coordination is like the right representation because of proportion, right? The reason simulation exists, I have some material called a computer that does some sort of logical processing, and you see the different fonts, that's discreteness, but the reason proportionality is why simulation exists. You can model the laws of physics with an inanimate object because of proportionality. Right? Absolute size doesn't really matter, and you can just model this shit. It comes from proportionality. But the natural coordinate system is polar coordinate. Like, it's kind of cumbersome to show you the logical consistency, but that we've derived polar coordinates, like the structure of the word thing. And so that's like the natural simulation, meaning modeling, right? That's where you get like metrics. Again, back to like matrices, metrics, you're modeling something. And as proportions map, or they're congruent. All right, a computer's a physical system, I'm a physical system, so I'm using a physical system to model other physical systems. That's proportionality. That's congruence and proportionality. The computer doesn't need to actually be as big as a galaxy for you guys to run galactic evolution programs. And so, but again, kind of a weird proof, but it is a big result. Polar coordination is like the right thing. Because before we talked about how Cartesian makes absolutely no sense. Again, it's just like, what is Cartesian coordinates? It's like X and Y, but it's more of, right? Polar and cylindrical, you have an angle. And Cartesian, you don't have angles. And so it's like cylindrical and spherical and polar. Cylindrical and spherical are polar systems. So there's two polar systems, but the general thing is polar. Polar coordinate system is like the thing we just derived. And so, just meaning spherical and cylindrical, you get an angle. Like, I forget what it's called, but you get an angle. And so that's something there, but there's nothing to say. That's just like the right thing to do. But yeah, we derived that. And so again, a cumbersome result, but certainly enough for me to make a video on it. Because again, we're like deriving the structure of like mathematical representation at this point. Like, why do you use certain coordinate systems as opposed to others? Which again, is still steps that I've already done before. So again, that's not as poignant as some of the other results, but my rights continue to be violated. Obviously, I've done so much mathematics in the past 7 months alone. Money, I just want some money. I just want some money so I can buy food. That is not a joke or an exaggeration. Never in my life have I have enough personal stability, look there, financial stability, the ability to eat, to sleep, and to buy things at a basic necessity level has never occurred in my entire existence. And so moving forward, producing any, again, results, talking through every bit of logic that presents itself, because again, this will end. And then we'll be right back to, again, words have meaning and the intuition is directly drawn from this derivation. And so I'm trying to encapsulate as much as I possibly can throughout this whole process. So that's what I have. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.